Sheila here with Sirius Dallas Moon Hour. And this is, yeah. Oh, the Ascendant is 2020 in Leo. Well. Um, Park Rose Permaculture had this video about somebody was trying to predict a false flag, and I'm like, oh, that would be a great idea to try to predict what will the next false flag be? And somebody talked there about um, United States trying to frame Iraq for what United States is doing in Iraq, and immediately I went, oh, because I was seeing the Saturn-Neptune, Mars crossing the Saturn-Neptune this April, as some name list could come out. And it is Saturn returned to the through the seers, and indeed we see this year reiterating of more cases that were connected. I also got a little bit of an omen that the Cassandra case was connected. It's an omen that would be considered paranormal because it is channeling. Basically, what I got is they want the bloodline. When I was covering the episode on Spirit of Matter, and but this was not a water expanse upon cooling episode. Um, when we think about the Deming dossiers and the fact that they were exposed around the time where United States was supposed to be or was at risk of being litigated for war crimes and the genocide of Kurdistani people. And they were looking to see what's up with the Haq. Some of the people were connected to people who supported the separatists, namely Joris de Mink. And that brought a boom of discussion about the Demink dossiers. Now, here's the thing about these things. The victims are victims, whether it's exposed or not. But another person that been sitting in jail for quite some time, and recently they had a picture of child pedophilia that somehow teleported to his cell is Marc Dutroux. And here is the thing about the Marc Dutroux. He wanted to give a name list in the 1990s. And the reason, and if we see both astrologically but also in terms of world events, again, United States is ingressing to Iraq. Again, the scenario for when the Kurdistani people could be at risk, let's say, there was an attempted to create an operation where it was on the news. It's not a yes, I'm not I'm not an insider. Okay, just to make that clear. There was an attempt to have an operation with Kurdistani people, Israeli and United States, to attack Iran, but it fell flat, and the United States entering Iraq may have something to do with that. The United States casted a veto on that. The reason I say United States is because when we talk about the P5, which is the Security Council, that can command military invasion to a country, and United States basically vetoing a move, we talk about United States. Very simple, because I hear a lot of Trump, Bibi, and so on, and the celebrity politician is very, very nice as concept, as idea, but it's not as simplistic. You can listen to Knitting Cult Lady when it comes to what it takes to approve or a military invasion, and the fact that if the military doesn't believe that they can do that practically, successfully, it's considered illegal order. and then there is the Congress that needs to approve. So when people say Trump, Trump's regime, Trump, no, Trump has not reinstated emergency laws to the point that can counter the Congress. So if the Congress, in Hebrew we call it Parlament Leumati when we address the U.S. Congress, basically means that the Congress can counter the president's decision. Um, so when we say Trump's regime, a more correct thing to say would be United States, because behind such decision is the Congress. And the Congress consists of both red and blue. Now, United States vetoed a joint operation with Kurdistani people, and then talks about entering Iraq and framing Iraq for certain crimes when people suspect that United States could be in charge of them. I see this as a reiteration of the events prior to the Deming dossiers and the True dossiers, or what we call Rolodex. And since the Epstein list is already out, then I already, the fact that suddenly a month ago somebody discovered pedophilia at the cell of Marc Dutroux, which is he's in prison. So either a magazine of child pornography teleported to his cell, or somebody brought it there, because um, Marc Dutroux wanted to spill out the names, and when it comes to whether alleviation of imprisonment conditions, he was surrounded by, okay, the people who would want to prevent him saying such names. Even when it came to interviews, um, even interviews that interviewed people like Anneke Lucas, and wanted to interview Detru and try to do something through the lawyer, they had to make the correct hand gestures. uh, yes, and again, these interviews yield nothing, and this is because the True, right from his arrest, wanted to name the list, and Lucas addresses that, where they brought Michelle Nihul, which she knew as a child from the elite pedophilia network. Um, Now, I have addressed what Douglas McIntyre testifies about, which is the by proxy mind control, and added to that the by proxy mind control is not just a physical thing, but it's a no-touch mind control, so that the handler might not even be present. Um, this is something that is an integral part of understanding both the Epstein list, and in case we're going to have a death row list or a Rolodex list. I know there was some list a while ago, but it's very likely that United States will push for exposing the names of the Rolodex. What people have to question is who is in the Haag. I know that there was a thought to transfer the Haag to Singapore. I don't know where did it come from. Okay, very simply put, I was eating sushi and trying doing a channel and experiment, and I heard litigate in Singapore. And then I see that all the billionaires moved to Singapore, and I see something where I don't even remember how I received it at the Haag. They want to transfer the Haag to Singapore. Again, I don't know if sitting in the Haag today, Israel also had to evade war crimes, and we saw the Epstein list out with both right and left wing in it, of both US, Israel, and the world. And since I see the exact events popping up, I wonder if this might be exposure of the Rolodex, the true dossiers, um, and the contemporary, because Aries is the new names, is both historically, mythically important names and new names. Now, just to clarify that, I have no idea who the fuck are the new names, and because they do this torture with mind control, even the names are published. They can be people that are handlers that are not visible. Um, the fact that suddenly they discovered some pedophilia material by the true self is sus to me, because it tells me that they try to discredit Marc Dutroux from speaking about the list. They're probably going to try to frame it as, oh, that old person now wants to talk about the list. The list, look, he's a child molester or this or that. But because the dossiers originally were exposed around United States not wanting them coordinated with the Hague, fearing people who would support the separatists, fearing litigations for genocide of Kurdistani people, and um, and the people that could support the separatists or support the Kurdistani people. First of all, Israeli government wanted to have an operation with Kurdistani people. We expected to see a lot of Israeli names, and I couldn't be more than looking forward to it, to be very honest. Yet we have to take into account that the people behind the people are usually not visible even when a name list is exposed. That would be the people that targeted me. Okay. And here's the thing, I don't know who they are. um, and um, as per the Rolodex, it's very likely we're either going to have the Rolodex, but probably any name that is Israeli and could have been still a part of the operation or planning an operation with Kurdistani people. Probably an entire Congress will take care that those names will be out. Now, what do I think about this? Well, first of all, in those extortion cults, the extortion is to commit a genocide. So let's say the Kurdistani genocide or genocide in Gaza was basically a part of the move of the extortion cults. Uh, they grow up offenders, and I addressed in previous episode how they grow up offenders. Yeah, whatever. Um, recording, recording, recording. Thank you. Of course, the social engineers try to make an interruptions. Um, now, um, either that or there's just an aggressive moon transit or something. Yeah, Moon is opposing Saturn. Moon is mom's. Saturn is in the sign of Aries. Mars is interruptions. So it's an interruption by an older person. In that case, my mom. Of royal degree. Now, the extortion cults basically extort the child sex offenders in their respective networks to commit genocide. That's the point. And then they litigate them for crimes against humanity. Because if they loot money or they loot wealth, litigating them for crimes against humanity, okay, but for example, the Shilumim from Germany, which the family saw not a penny of, um, they were They were looted by persecuting Germany for war crimes. Also, United States bombed concentration camps in the Second World War. Um, but it kind of won over Germany, so it got away with that. Um, now the 22 has moved to has moved to Taurus. Now, um, so to try to avoid being litigated for war crimes, they expose a dossier. This is Saturn returned to the Rolodex. Um, we see again cases like a Tanya Hun case, uh, even assassination of Peter R. de Vries, the same round cat was Tanya Hun, keep showing up. And attending to the aspect of political assassination, they basically love to juxtapose people. If somebody was activist for, let's say, multiculturalism, they will take people with exactly the culture that they were advocating for to assassinate. But I also discussed how they create assassins, uh, rape, torture, mind control, smugness, and then they get Ilanoed. So, um, but by the time they get Ilanoed, the person that they assassinate is already dead. And now, and this is if we abolish rape, then we basically abolish political assassination, extortion cults, genocides, democides, and so on, and false flags. So back to Park Rose video. It's not impossible that the region called Kurdistan is going to be the next false flag. And it's not impossible that this stellium or this month will yield either a Rolodex list or the equivalent of. Like I said, the discussion about the patent of creating a death row. How are child sex offenders created? What is the extortion doing, namely genocide, democide, and so on? What is behind the litigation for crimes against humanity? Okay, people were grown as offenders, got smug because they were grown to be smug about being offenders, and then extorted to do more and more and more crimes, and then suddenly being so-called held accountable, so that the wealth that they got will be looted, but none of that prevents more child abuse, rape, trafficking, genocide, democide, and war crimes. That is what I have to say on the topic.